But you see, the Earth is in the middle between Mars and Venus. But Venus should not be so hot. It should be warm, but not 900 degrees Fahrenheit.
Imagine a planet once called Hell, transformed into a paradise for humanity. Impossible, you say? Well, NASA scientists now believe signs of life may actually exist on Venus, a world they completely dismissed just decades ago.
Looking into the haze of Venus, experts have found traces of phosphine, a possible indicator of life.
Back in the cutthroat 1960s space race, the Soviet Union seemed absolutely determined to explore Venus, launching mission after mission to the planet's extreme surface. What were they hoping to find on this apparent hellscape? How did blazing hot Venus go from a hellish wasteland to a place that could harbor alien life forms? Join us as we discuss how Venus became a major player in the 90s for big dogs like the Soviet Union and NASA, and how it will potentially shape our future in the universe.
We have to be satisfied with not finding life directly, but finding the signature of life, the biomarkers that betray the existence of life.
The Soviet trips to Venus were top secret. But now, thanks to Neil deGrasse Tyson, we can look at old Soviet photos and learn their secrets. When the Soviet Union fell, it changed the world. Many of their space secrets disappeared in an instant. The Soviets were very sneaky and had smart spy groups. Some even think they may have met aliens. In the early space race days, before the US took over space trips, the Soviet Union was winning. They really liked Venus and called it Venera in their language. They sent 28 expensive machines to Venus between 1961 and 1983. 13 went into Venus's air and 8 landed safely on its surface. While the US cared about the moon, the Soviets were obsessed with Venus. So a question arises, why were they so fascinated by Venus? Well, they wanted to find water and learn about the planet. Their missions helped us understand how hot and thick the atmosphere is there. But figuring out what exactly they wanted or what they found is hard. These missions showed the Soviet Union was powerful in space. They did more than just 1 or 2 missions. They seemed ahead of everyone in exploring space. Although the United States focused on technology and satellites, the Soviet space program did many important things quietly. They were the first to send a probe into another planet's clouds and safely land on another planet. They even brought back pictures and sounds from other planets. When the Soviet space program ended in 1992, many of its secrets disappeared. Why did they send so many spacecraft to Venus? One reason might be to save money. They might have wanted to make their efforts count. They wanted to find water, learn about radiation, and understand Venus's surroundings. Their missions helped us know Venus is blazing hot with very high air pressure. Venus tempted the Soviet Union like an elusive siren. On the surface, it was a seething crucible of heat and pressure, utterly inhospitable to life. Yet clues hinted at untold secrets beneath those acidic clouds. What if Venus was not always this way? What if, years ago, it harbored oceans and an atmosphere like Earth's? The Soviets dreamed of finding oasis amid the merciless heat, miraculous life thriving in lost lakes. Though NASA saw a wasteland, the Soviets chased their Venusian mirages. They had to know if their visions were real or mere fantasy. Some scientists warned of disappointment, certain that hellish Venus could never host life. But risk has its rewards, and if the Soviets could find even simple organisms in Venus's skies, it would change everything. The foundations of biology would shake, definitions of habitability would expand. Daring dreams of colonizing Venus ignited, floating cloud cities above a once-and-future garden world. Every probe dispatched brought this alien yet familiar planet into clearer focus. What wonders or desolation awaited behind her veil? The Soviets had to know. Venus called to them across time and space, and they followed. Today, experts don't think Venus can have life because it's so hot and dry there. But we shouldn't forget what the Soviet Union did. They explored Venus for important reasons, even if it was to compete with other countries. They thought about exploring Mars too, but it would cost more because Mars is further away. Venus was closer, so going there cost less. If the United States didn't have the biggest economy, even exploring Mars might not have happened. There are stories that the Soviet missions had problems and weren't reliable. Their spacecraft had issues with long distances and often lost contact. This might be why they chose shorter missions to Venus. It's important to think about the space race situation. The United States wasn't even racing the Soviets in space when they launched Sputnik 1, the first man-made satellite, in 1957. That changed everything and started the rivalry. After World War II, both countries wanted to show their power, including in space. The Soviet space program moved fast. In 1958, US President Eisenhower started NASA, which began the space race. Those big events shaped the space exploration we see today. Both the US and Soviet Union wanted to make a big impact in space. NASA's famous 1969 moon landing was huge for the US, but even then, some Soviet experts thought the US faked it. Interestingly, the US had problems with its Venus missions in the 1960s. The Soviet Union saw a chance to focus on Venus and get ahead of NASA. Both were determined to win the space race. The Soviet goal was to succeed where the US failed. They wanted to visit Venus many times with their Venera missions to show their skills. NASA cared about the moon. The Venera missions started in the 1950s and went on for 30 years. Despite having limited resources, the Soviets kept trying. They used good rockets and technology for both unmanned and manned missions. Today, some scientists think Venus might not be so harsh after all. Some believe Venus may have had oceans long ago, and maybe even life. NASA says Venus might have been similar to Earth before, with ingredients for life. But Venus's thick atmosphere changed things. However, in 2020, NASA found something exciting, a gas called phosphine that could point to simple life forms. So some scientists now wonder if there might still be some type of life on Venus. The USSR really wanted to discover something amazing on Venus. They had reasons to think they might find something big there. After 2022, the phosphine on Venus discovery became very important. Now Russia is focused on Venus again. They plan to send a mission by 2029. For now, Venus continues to be Earth's mysterious twin. But the questions keep mounting as we uncover more glimpses of this strange, clouded world. Let us know down in the comments, what do you think we might discover next on Venus? Are you hopeful we'll find signs of life, or do you think that's impossible on such a hot, high-pressure planet? Until next time, fellow explorers,